Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your Hurricane Pro and HD video blog for the 30th day of August 2013, and the dearth of activity continues in the Atlantic, despite a couple of areas outlined here in yellow and this one in orange. Neither of those areas are of any real concern to land areas. Maybe the Cape Verde Islands with this system, which I believe is labeled Invest 96L, the numbering and lettering scheme to set aside each particular disturbance on its own instead of just calling it this blob or that blob of clouds. So 96L has a chance to develop. If we look at the satellite shot here, the graphical tropical weather outlook, a strong tropical wave coming off. This area still kind of weakening, fading away as it gets dragged across the Atlantic with all that stable air that's still in place. Looking at the GFS over the next 5 to 6 days, you see the system out here. This is it coming off Africa, and it's really weak in the model, and it turns off to the northwest here around this high pressure area. Just not seeing anything coming together, which is great news for coastal dwellers. Certainly, you don't need me to tell you that, but it is very puzzling to people like me who track these things many years. I've made a career out of it. Other folks like Dr. William Gray and Dr. Phil Klotzbach at Colorado State University, Dr. Jeff Masters from the Weather Underground. I can name more folks. I'm sure that different universities, Florida State, North Carolina State, that have been issuing hurricane seasonal forecasts, Colorado State the most famous, are kind of wondering what's going on, as we seemingly have all the ingredients in place, but yet we're not getting any development. There seems to be this mystery key ingredient that's not there, and everything is just falling flat. I guess it's kind of like having all the ingredients to the best wedding cake ever, but somebody forgot to turn on the oven. I guess that's the way to look at it. So even as we see the next system here, this 96L coming off Africa, right there, over the next several days, it's going to be really weak. Some showers and thunderstorms for the Cape Verde Islands, and then off to the northwest it goes. The other tropical wave sitting out here in the central Atlantic just continues to dry up and lose all of its energy as well. If we look at the eastern Pacific real quick, nothing really of any concern out there. A couple of areas still sitting at 10 and 20%. Even in the long term, 20% for both of these systems, I believe, yes. So the Pacific, even though there's been more storms, we're up to J, the Juliet, the J storm, was down here yesterday. We haven't had any major hurricanes in the Pacific. We've had a couple of hurricanes, but we haven't had any Category 3 or higher. And this is also kind of puzzling, because with as active as the Eastern Pacific season has been, we certainly thought we would see a major hurricane out there by now. So something is going on globally to cause a downturn in what we call the accumulated cyclone energy, or the ACE. And this is the true measure of the energy output by tropical cyclones. You could have 20 named storms, use up almost all 21 on the list. Heck, let's just say they're all used up. We get all the way to the last letter, W, and we use 21 names. Remember, we don't use Q, U, X, Y, and Z in the Atlantic Basin. So let's say we have 21 named storms. Well, if they're all 40 to 50 mile per hour tropical storms that last just for a couple of days, then your total amount of energy expended, wind energy, is still pretty low, and that's what we call the accumulated cyclone energy, and it is a measure used by NOAA and other people that track hurricanes, tropical cyclones, to express the activity of individual tropical cyclones and an entire season. And that's what's important here. It is a way to measure an entire season. Now, to give you an example, the highest ACE value from a single tropical cyclone ever was Hurricane Ioki in 2006, and it had an ACE value all by itself of 82, believe it or not. Now let's scroll down the list here. I want to show you how this season stacks up against others. Here's 2013 right here, and we're sitting at a meager 8 right now. We're sitting at 8 for the ACE value. Last year, we ended up with 133 for the total year. What is the mean, the average in any given season? 93 is the average number. Not 100. We're not trying to get to 100 and therefore we're at 100%. The mean value, the average value for the Atlantic Basin over the course of climatology is 93. We're sitting at 8 right now. So we have a long way to go just to get to the average. And there were some that were forecasting an ACE this year of 140, which is obviously well above the mean. I don't think this is going to happen. I mean, it would take a couple of very powerful, long-lived hurricanes to generate the ACE needed to get even to the average, much less above average. What is the strongest ACE season ever for the Atlantic? That would be 2005 right there with an ACE of 250. And we had that because of Katrina, Category 5, Erica was a Category 5, Wilma was a Category 5, Rita was a Category 5, plus we had lots of other hurricanes that year. I think we had 15 hurricanes or 10 hurricanes or something like that. It was a very big hurricane year, and you really need the hurricanes to generate the higher ACE values. Going back in time and looking at other years that were very slow, 1977 sticks out here as a very slow ACE year with only 25 that year. 1983 was one of the slowest in the last 50 years, if not the slowest ever, with an ACE value of 17. But that year, we saw Hurricane Alicia that hit Texas, the Houston area, as a Category 3, and that was responsible for most of those 17 points, if you will, ACE value points, during the 1983 season. So you can have some pretty wild fluctuations. I mean, look, 1994 was 32, and then 1995, 228. So you can have wild fluctuations in the ACE, and I don't know, maybe this year will wildly fluctuate up, but I'm starting to wonder if that's going to happen. So that's what's going on when you hear more and more people talk about the ACE value being so low for this hurricane season. The accumulated cyclone energy index, right now it is sitting at 8. How high will it end up for the rest of the season? We'll have to wait and see. It's not looking like it's going to go up too much anytime soon. That being said, I want to reiterate here that the weekend ahead, Labor Day weekend, going to look great for the coastline of the United States, the Caribbean islands, Mexico. No tropical cyclone issues at all, so don't even worry about that this weekend. Even if the system off of Africa develops, it is more than likely to turn out to sea and weaken over time and not ever be an issue. It's probably not going to be until after the mid part of September that we could possibly see any kind of threats to land as the pattern supposedly gets more and more favorable. I'll have to just say I'll believe it when I see it, which is great news for people who live along the coast, right? No complaints there. Have a great Labor Day weekend. Stay safe out there, whatever your plans may be. Again, I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, my website. Always a privilege and an honor to produce these videos for you on Hurricane Pro in HD. I'll be back over the weekend with more.